Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Midday Western U.S. Regional Forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. I want to come back to a topic we discussed on Friday, and that was the weather configuration that we had in March of 1991. That was a March where we saw incredible amounts of precipitation through the state of California, and since we're in deficit right now, we need to see if anything is pointing toward a repeat of that particular March. So the main features: large ridge that kind of nosed its way here into the Gulf of Alaska, surrounded by troughing that went from the Bering Sea here into western Canada that then came back over parts of California. So what we ended up getting out of this was flow that came in just like this around that trough, hitting the Sierra Nevada mountains and really piling up the snow. Other components of this flow did feature ridging that extended from Europe back to Greenland. I'm going to talk about that as well. So if we're going to see a change in our pattern that can get us away from the incredible dryness we've seen, especially in California, this is going to be the setup that we're going to need to get out of this. So let's just look out through the end of this week. By Friday, what we're watching is deeper troughs still well established here. Our ridge is nosing in too far to the south. Maybe we'd have to come in right up into this area. So we're off by a few hundred miles. We do see a trough that is sneaking through a little cutoff low that's going to start here and sink to the south and then head over towards Southern California, increasing precipitation chances at the end of this week, but not too much precipitation. The other pieces that are failing in this, look at the deep trough that's sitting over Greenland. We need to see a ridge developing there. So clearly a continuation of our current pattern through the end of this week. What about getting into next week? How about the 25th of February? Well, I do see a ridge trying to push its way into this area, but it's more oriented like this than it is coming into the Aleutian Islands. At that time, the trough that was sitting over Alaska has now basically taken a dive right down here into parts of the Four Corner states. And that continues to point toward drier conditions for California as we stretch on out into this particular time period in February. But I saw this. Looking out pretty far here into March, the beginning of March, you can see that the models are trying to put a ridge right into this area. And we have one piece of the trough here and a second right in through there. Now, remember, in 1991, these two features were well connected and quite deep, but the pieces are coming together to signal a bit of a pattern change for California. What is missing is what's happening in Europe and Greenland. The North Atlantic is not kind of playing along with this pattern. So the question that I have is, maybe temporarily get into this where we get some additional precip into California as we move into the month of March? Yes. But is it going to be the kind of, saving precipitation that we need to bring up the snowpack for our upcoming spring and summer? At this point, it doesn't fully look like that. But let me show you what I'm talking about. As I go all the way out here to March 17th, we do have a couple of the pieces in place. I see that there is a ridge that's forming here in the Gulf of Alaska near the Aleutian Islands. We can kind of see that our broad trough feature is here. Now remember, we needed it to be tucked away like that, but it's at least in place. And we did start to see some ridging over parts of Europe, but Greenland's still overall not showing up with a broader ridge that would help push this trough feature back into the west. But still, let me show you the results of this. If we look out here at the week leading up to the 17th, so now we're just looking at the 10th of March to the 17th, where that ridge noses in here, we see the drier conditions pushing into British Columbia and the Pacific Northwest. And for the first time in a while, I've now seen wetter than average conditions being forecast by our long-range European weekly model. I'm going to show you the whole of March at the end of this, but that is at least a signal for some change in California, and we do need this to be coming through. Now, in the near term, over the next, this gets us out to Saturday morning, things are very, very dry. We're going to watch this little cutoff low that comes sneaking down through here by Friday and then works its way into Southern California, possibly bringing in a little bit of precip there as you get pretty far south. So we're talking about LA Basin, getting over to the southern part of the San Joaquin Valley. But overall, this is a drier week for the Pacific Northwest. Let's see it in detail by going to our European model. As I press play and just let this run all the way through Friday morning, here's where we see the little cutoff low. It's in the upper level, so you're not going to see it well reflected here, but it's sitting in this position Friday night. And then by the time we get into Saturday morning and into Saturday afternoon, that's when it starts to bring in the chances for precipitation for the southern third of the state of California, then moving over into Arizona. So again, that is Saturday morning really late Friday night into Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon. Now after that, the northwest finally gets back into some of the action again. So our high pressure cell reestablishes itself here, and there we go with systems over the periphery again. And so what we see here is that this weekend, so this is Sunday morning, getting into Sunday afternoon and evening, getting into Monday morning is when the northwest gets its next big round of precipitation coming screaming through here. Now after this, now I got you out here to the 24th, I like seeing the fact that I'm able to bring a deep trough at the surface. Okay, so this is a low pressure center. This is the associated frontal trough. This is extending all the way down to Hawaii. And what I like about that is pushing into and through the high pressure cells that are sitting here. Now this is just at the beginning, I think, of what could be an overall pattern breakdown. But we're going to stop this animation here, which is about a week from now. So again, relatively drier week. Cutoff low comes into Southern California for the end of this week and the start of the weekend. Then over the northern part of this, up here in the northwest, we then get the system Sunday into Monday. After that, I get you out here to Tuesday, and I'm starting to see a bit of a breakdown in that high pressure cell that's been so protective. But it's going to take some time because I look out exclusively into week 2. So this is only looking at week 2. So this is through March 3rd. We're still waiting on the change to happen in Alaska at this point to really get rid of the overall drier anomalies we will be seeing here in the western side of North America. So this is still waiting, because remember that trough dug down here for middle of next week. So it sets up shop here and then takes off, and it'll be after that that the pattern shifts. So before I show you that again, here is what our temperatures are doing. Overall, this week for California and south all the way to Arizona, we're going to be seeing a milder pattern in terms of temperatures. The coldest air this week is locked up right here in Idaho, parts of Utah, Wyoming, and southern Montana. The Pacific Northwest seeing very close to normal temperatures, so they're going to go on a bit of a ride with those temperatures. And here's what I mean. I want to just look at minimum temperatures to start off with. We had some concern that through the Central Valley we were going to be able to get enough cold air pooling here that we could see some frost, but it looks as though that's kind of moved its way out of the forecast. So this is Tuesday's minimum temperatures, and you can see that through Wednesday morning the coldest air is tucked right in through here, but overall we're just down in the 30s in the Central Valley. In the northern part of the state at higher elevation, we're of course getting a below freezing, and almost all of the I-5 corridor in through here is seeing below freezing temperatures. So this is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday's low temperatures. Now getting into the weekend ahead of this next system, we see some moderation, especially along the coast. See that? Now temperatures, overnight low temperatures here in the low 30s to low 40s. And then Sunday, this is when the next system's finally pushing in, so some warm air out ahead of it, but then behind it we're going to talk about some bigger snows in the Cascade Mountains and in the northern Rockies. So what you just noticed there was that we kind of got rid of the frost threat, getting far into the Central Valley here that we had talked about last Friday. Okay, going beyond that, this is day 5 through 10 up here, and at that time period, that's when the trough that was sitting here finally establishes itself right here in the Colorado Rockies, and then it starts to pull on in this direction. So that time period is still on average warmer than normal for California and Nevada, but could get some cooler air coming through the Pacific Northwest. But look at this, days 5 through 10, this is when the trough fully becomes established here. The ridge begins to push into Alaska, and that is the key changeover that I'm talking about, but it's not going to happen until after we get past like March 3rd, 4th, 5th. It'll be at that time that the flow pattern ends up doing something like this, right? So that's what we're starting to look for that could possibly help us increase those precipitation amounts. Now, when we look out only at the month of March, so this is only the month of March, we see that the longer range models are wanting to keep much of the western United States on the cooler side of things. Some of the reason for this is because of the great snowpack that is in the Intermountain West. So this is the model responding to that. This is also because if the ridge pushes in here and the flow ends up coming around it, well, that's not the right direction to be warm, so certainly this is consistent. But look at what it's done in terms of our precipitation. Where's the drier wedge now? It's in there. And you can see that through the whole of the month of March, I have wetter than normal conditions pushing into this whole region and through here. take that off there so you can just see it again. So this has been a bit of a trend in the model that I think is going to be quite important. You can now start to see wetter than average conditions in places at times through the month of March in this area. The subtropical jet stream is still screaming over the top of this, which could assist overall, but that changeover in Alaska, giving us that low over high over low pattern, is what might get us back toward normal precipitation throughout the month. Now, if you ask me to put my confidence level in this is a pretty substantial break from persistence, so I cannot be overly confident in the model actually getting this nailed down right, especially on I guess this would totally be about a 40-day forecast. But I want to keep an eye on it. It's something we need to watch together, and I'll keep you updated, okay? With that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up right here. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you again very soon. Thank you.